There are two realities, an illusory world and a real world. Unfortunately enough, all of your attention is directed exactly in illusions. You live in illusory world, substituting real world, but you don't realize it. You are 100% sure that you live in reality and think as an individual, but actually you have been taught to think this way by the world of fashion, stereotypes, and unspoken rules, so-called world economy, and the system has been teaching you to think this way. As long as you think the way the system orders you to think, you will never approximate to freedom and success. Sooner or later, everyone will understand that this is time to change their mindset, change the approach to life. Sooner or later, everyone will understand that they live by illusions built by the system, and then such a person will think more reasonably and deeper. To understand the system and find its loopholes, that's what becomes the goal of such an individual. I don't care much for fiction literature, but one of them still left an imprint. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury is a philosophical dystopia that paints a picture of the development of post-industrial society, a society in which all written books are ruthlessly destroyed by a special squad of firemen, and the preservation of books is prosecuted by law. Interactive television successfully serves the general deception. Punitive psychiatry resolutely deals with the rare dissenters. And on the hunt for faulty dissidents, the electric dog once came to the protagonist. His boss came to see him. He told him that from the 19th century to the present day, people read less and less because the pace of life is constantly accelerating. Life is short, work comes first, and then entertainment. This is a book about the system. The system wants you to work for it and get little for it. It wants you to live in illusions, having fun, enjoying, and drinking. It takes you away from the real world, away from true knowledge, and it will never allow you to achieve material or spiritual prosperity. All these words of ours are to say that in order to change your thinking, you must understand why it is necessary. Hopefully you understood from our story the why behind it. Awareness. It is the first step towards the reprogramming of your thinking. If an individual wants to change their idiotized thinking, then they understand why it is necessary. Soon, after you realize that, you need to give your full attention and commitment to reprogramming. Here you need full commitment, by which we mean conscious daily work on yourself. This work should take up most of your time. By full commitment, I also mean constant recording of your activities on paper. Today quite little pays attention to records. This is the old school that we also follow. Any organization analyzes its activities. Without such an analysis, the activities of any organization or company is extremely inefficient. It does not know the quantitative characteristics of its activities, nor the qualitative, therefore cannot plan and predict future. A professional person thinks like a whole highly efficient organization in order to always be in a state of readiness, to maintain their skills, to predict and develop. A professional writes everything down on paper, and if for a while a professional leaves the analysis of his activity, his professionalism will be temporarily lost. It's hard, but without it you can't change your thinking. You can't reprogram your mental attitudes constantly without controlling and analyzing your actions. There was one successful company in Russia that lasted only 3 years. In 2021, it collapsed. We won't say its name, but it was one of the fastest growing startups in the history of the global business. So of course, it became such not because its founder used to get up at 5 a.m. and watch motivational videos. It became such because it was needed by the state. This is a common and very secret practice of the governments of the world. When the government needs to do dirty work, it needs the performers of this dirty work on the side in order to exclude the connection between the state and crime. Of course, the paycheck for such an order is not paid directly, but through private companies which are entitled to a commission, and especially popular among such intermediaries are fashionable, supposedly innovative startups. On the public, its successes are explained as a consequence of the uniqueness of ideas, the efforts of its leaders and employees. In reality, often the successes of many global companies are explained by the connection with the state, but the state would sooner or later stop needing your services, which this company failed to predict. The moral of this fable is always plan and analyze what you want to succeed in. You must have numbers in front of you, and numbers never lie. The next step to reprogramming is to developing critical thinking, which is the most powerful weapon for any professional. You have a basic thinking, clogged by propaganda, social media, fashion, stereotypes, etc. Such mentality is absent in critical thinking. You think the way the crowd thinks. With this kind of thinking, you will not get far. You will remain at the same stage of development as this crowd of people with no critical thinking. However, at the moment you stumble on one of our videos, firstly, you understand that you are not thinking individually, but as programmed. Then you understand the need of change. You start focusing on changing your mental stamps. Keep records, read books, and your critical thinking starts gradually developing. But what is critical thinking and why it is important? Before, when you didn't have critical thinking, you had a certain point of view on a problem. But when you read books on the problem and you gain experience, you start to look at the problem from completely different angles. You start to look at the problem through the eyes of many different people with different perspectives on life. You start to realize that everyone's point of view is right to some degree and wrong to some degree. The more knowledge you have, the more developed you are. This understanding of a social system allows you to move through it. You begin to understand how people think, what they want, what their motives are, and on the other hand, the same system won't fool you. This is where critical thinking is effective. Examining a problem through the eyes of different people helps to better understand other people's perspectives and emotions, which can help to develop empathy and sympathy for others, which is important in finding balanced and fair solutions. Moreover, different people have different backgrounds, beliefs and perspectives, and points of view. Examining a problem through the lens of these differences helps to gain a fuller understanding of the problem. Diverse perspectives can provide new insights and understanding of how the problem is perceived in different contexts. Thus, firstly, it's necessary to understand that you live by system standards and not yours. These standards put huge limits on your potential. Later, you need to focus solely on chaining your thinking through continuous control, analysis, and records. Finally, developing your critical thinking skills, which is the most crucial tool in hands of a professional. Yet you have to remember that your life will never be the same. Could it be that your previous life will be more attractive to you? Because thinking rationally is not always pleasant. As a rule, efficiency and enjoyment are the terms that are not connected. Only the result is pleasurable, not the road to it. Think twice before changing your thinking.